Grand Canyon National Park, Arizona. Between 2018 and 2025, over 40 hikers went missing from remote trails in the eastern section of the canyon. 23 bodies were recovered, 17 remain unfound. The National Park Service officially attributes these deaths to dehydration, falls, and exposure, common dangers in the unforgiving desert terrain. Tribal police from the neighboring Navajo Nation tell a different story. What follows is the account of Benjamin Sosi, former Navajo Nation tribal police officer who witnessed something that ended his law enforcement career. The recording was made on February 12, 2026, at Sosi's residence in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where he relocated after medical retirement. My name is Benjamin Sosi. I'm 43 years old, born and raised in Tuba City on the Navajo Reservation. I served with the Navajo Nation Tribal Police for 18 years before my medical retirement last April. I specialized in search and rescue operations, particularly in the eastern boundary areas where our jurisdiction meets Grand Canyon National Park. My father was also tribal police, and his father before him worked as a tracker for the BIA back in the 60s. My family has deep roots in that landscape. We've watched over those canyons for generations. The first recovery I participated in was summer 2021. A 19-year-old college student from Minnesota had separated from his hiking group near Marble Canyon. Park rangers found his backpack and one hiking boot at the base of a side trail about 8 miles from the nearest ranger station. They called us in because the trail crossed into reservation land and they wanted our trackers to assist. I remember thinking it was a standard operation. We'd find a dehydrated kid who'd wandered off trail or, worst case, recover a body from a fall. The canyon claims lives every year. It's a beautiful place, but it doesn't forgive mistakes. We assembled a team of 6. Myself, Sergeant Daniel Begay, 52 years old, 30-year veteran with expert tracking skills. He knew every inch of that canyon system. He'd grown up herding sheep in those same canyons as a boy. Raymond Blackhorse was our lead tracker, 47, former Army Ranger with 3 tours in Afghanistan, built like a boxer. Kelly Wilson was our medic, 34, 10 years experience as an ER nurse before joining tribal police. The Park Service sent 2 rangers, James Hartford and Lisa Compton, a geologist specializing in the canyon's eastern formations. We set out at dawn following the students' last known route. The weather was brutal, 108 degrees by mid-morning. We moved efficiently, conserving energy and water. Hartford and Compton led us to the site of the backpack. Raymond took over from there. I've never seen anyone read sign like him. He could tell you how long ago someone passed. After about 2 hours, Raymond stopped. He was kneeling, staring at something on the ground that none of us could see. He called Daniel over, speaking in Navajo. Daniel knelt beside him, examined the spot, then stood up slowly. I'd never seen Daniel look confused before. He was our rock. But now he was frowning, shaking his head. "What is it?" I asked. Daniel gestured at the ground. "Tracks stop here. Just stop." Hartford pushed forward. "That's impossible. People don't just vanish." Raymond stood up, not saying he vanished, saying the tracks stop, like he was... He paused, searching for the English word. "Lifted." Hartford laughed. "So what? You think a helicopter came and got him?" Raymond looked at him coldly. No disturbance in the soil suggesting rotor wash. No wider tracks suggesting someone carried him. The tracks simply end, as if he went from walking on the ground to not touching it anymore. We expanded our search pattern. Kelly and I went north, Daniel and Raymond went south, the park rangers continued east along the main trail. We agreed to meet back at that spot in 2 hours. Kelly and I found nothing. The park rangers found nothing. But when we returned to the meeting point, Daniel and Raymond weren't there. We waited 30 minutes before trying the radio, no response. We decided to follow their presumed route. About a half-mile south of the meeting point, we found Daniel sitting on a rock, alone. His face was gray. When he saw us, he stood up. "Where's Raymond?" Hartford asked. Daniel just pointed. About 50 yards ahead, the canyon narrowed into a slot maybe 6 feet wide. The walls rose straight up, cutting out the light. Daniel finally spoke. "Raymond went in to check something. He saw drag marks." "And?" Hartford prompted. "He didn't come back out." We approached the slot canyon cautiously. Hartford called Raymond's name. Nothing. No echo, which was strange. Sound should have bounced off those narrow walls. Hartford tried again, louder. Nothing. Complete silence. That's when I realized what was wrong. There were no sounds at all. No insects, no birds, no wind whistling through the canyon, nothing. In the desert, silence like that doesn't exist. There's always something, lizards scuttling, ravens calling, wind moving through rock formations. But here there was absolute silence. It felt heavy, like pressure against my ears. Daniel wouldn't go into the slot canyon. He said something in Navajo that I didn't catch. Kelly nodded. She understood whatever he'd said. Hartford and Compton insisted we had to find Raymond and the missing student. So the three of us entered while Daniel waited at the entrance. The temperature dropped immediately, at least 20 degrees cooler than outside. The walls were smooth, polished by centuries of flash floods. The ground was damp, which made no sense. There hadn't been rain for weeks. We followed the narrowing passage for about 100 yards. It was getting darker, the strip of sky above us just a thin blue line. We found Raymond's radio first, then his sidearm, a Glock 22. Both were lying on the ground as if dropped. No sign of a struggle. The sand around them was undisturbed except for a single set of boot prints, Raymond's, leading deeper into the slot canyon. Hartford wanted to keep going. Kelly and I exchanged a look. Something was wrong, very wrong. The air felt thick, difficult to breathe. And that silence, it was oppressive now, pressing against us from all sides. I suggested we retreat and get back up. Hartford insisted we continue. He was senior officer on Park Service land, so technically we were under his authority. We moved forward. The slot canyon widened slightly into a small chamber about 15 feet across. The ground here was completely smooth, no tracks, no disturbance in the fine sand, and in the center, neatly arranged in a perfect circle, was a pile of clothing. The missing student's second boot, his socks, his shirt, his shorts, his watch, everything laid out precisely, as if for display. But no body, no blood, no signs of injury or death. Hartford stepped forward to examine the clothing. That's when I noticed the walls. They were wet, not damp like before, wet. Water was seeping out of the solid rock, running down in thin sheets to pool on the ground. But the ground wasn't muddy. The water was being absorbed as fast as it appeared. Hartford was kneeling by the clothing when Kelly grabbed my arm. She was staring upward. I followed her gaze. The narrow strip of sky above us had disappeared, not covered by clouds, gone. The space above us was dark, but not in a way I can properly explain. It wasn't the darkness of night or shadow. It was an absence, as if that part of the world had been erased. We heard it then, a soft humming sound, like electricity moving through wires, but deeper, vibrating in our chest cavities. The sound wasn't coming from any specific direction. It was everywhere and nowhere. We need to leave now. Kelly's voice was steady but urgent. Hartford ignored her, still examining the clothing. Compton had moved to the wall, touching the flowing water with scientific curiosity. I started backing toward the entrance. That's when I saw it. Something was moving in the darkness above us. Not falling, descending in a controlled way. It was difficult to see clearly, but the shape was wrong. Too tall, too thin, limbs too long, too numerous. It moved like something underwater, fluid and weightless. I shouted a warning. Compton looked up. Hartford was still kneeling. Kelly was already running for the entrance. I turned to follow her. Behind me, I heard Hartford make a sound. Not a scream, not a word. A kind of choked gasp, followed by a wet, tearing sound that I still hear in my dreams. I didn't look back. Kelly and I ran. The walls of the slot canyon seemed to be pressing inward, the passage narrowing. That humming sound grew louder, vibrating through the rock itself. We reached the entrance where Daniel was waiting. His face told me he knew what we'd encountered. He said nothing, just turned and started jogging away from the slot canyon. We followed. When we were about a quarter-mile away, Kelly stopped and turned back. Hartford and Compton and Raymond. Daniel kept walking. Gone. We need to go back, Kelly insisted. We can't just leave them. Daniel stopped. They're gone, not missing. Gone. Taken. If we go back, we'll be taken too. Taken by what? I asked. Daniel looked at me, then at the slot canyon in the distance. The Tsenina Dutwiz Yini Fahi. The what? Kelly asked, though she understood Navajo better than I did. The blue stone eater, Daniel translated. It's very old, older than the canyon itself. It lives in the deepest parts where the water meets the stone. It takes people sometimes. Kelly looked at him like he'd lost his mind. That's a story, a legend. We just lost 3 people in there. We need backup search teams. Daniel cut her off. Search teams won't find anything. The blue stone eater doesn't leave remains. It takes everything: flesh, bone, spirit. The clothing it arranges as marking its territory, warnings that we ignore. I didn't know what to think. I'd grown up with Navajo stories, but I'd also been trained as a police officer. I believed in evidence, procedure, logical explanations. But I'd seen something in that slot canyon that didn't fit any rational framework. And I'd known Daniel my entire career. He wasn't a man given to superstition or panic. We radioed for emergency backup, reporting officers down. Within 2 hours, the canyon was swarming with Park Service personnel, tribal police, and eventually FBI. They searched for days. They found nothing. No bodies, no blood, no evidence of what had happened. Hartford, Compton, and Raymond were officially listed as missing, presumed dead from a flash flood, despite there being no rain for weeks and no other evidence of flooding in the area. I told the investigators what I'd seen. They documented my statement, but clearly didn't believe me. The official report concluded that 3 officers had likely been swept away in a localized flash flood, caused by a distant thunderstorm. Case closed. But the tribal police knew better. No search teams were sent into that particular slot canyon again. Daniel made sure of that. He knew what was in there, and he knew no amount of manpower or firepower would make any difference. For the next 3 years, I continued working search and rescue operations in the canyon. 2 more hikers went missing in 2022, 4 in 2023. The Park Service kept attributing the disappearances to the usual dangers: falls, dehydration, disorientation. But most of the bodies were never found. And the ones that were found, they weren't right. The second recovery operation happened in April 2024. A family of 4 from Chicago had vanished from the North Rim Trail. Their rental car was found at the trailhead, packed for a day hike: water bottles, trail mix, sunscreen, camera. They'd planned to be back by sunset. 3 days later, another hiking group reported finding a child's shoe on the trail. Park Service rangers located the family's backpacks and some clothing about 7 miles in. They called us for assistance. This time, Daniel refused to join the search. He'd retired 2 months earlier, though he was only 54 and in excellent health. He told me privately that he wouldn't go back into the canyon. "It's hunting more frequently now," he said. "It's hungry." I went with a different team. Aaron Yazzie, 36, former Marine sniper, now our lead tactical officer. Sarah Hattertley, 41, our best tracker since Raymond disappeared. Dr. Martin Chi, 39, emergency medicine specialist who joined the tribal police after 10 years at Tuba City Regional. And me. The Park Service sent a single ranger this time, William Deschert, a by-the-book type, who made it clear he considered the tribal police presence a courtesy rather than a necessity. We picked up the family's trail easily: 2 adults, 2 children, a boy around 12 and a girl around 8, judging by the footprints. They'd followed the established trail for about 5 miles, then veered off toward a series of small side canyons. Sarah thought they might have been chasing a photography opportunity. The light in those side canyons is spectacular in late afternoon. We found the first body just before noon on the second day. The father, Gordon Ellis, 42. He was lying face down at the bottom of a steep incline. Cause of death appeared to be a broken neck from a fall. His camera was still around his neck, intact. His water bottle was half full, no signs of dehydration or extended exposure. The body was relatively fresh, no more than 48 hours according to Dr. Chi. Deschert radioed it in as a confirmed accidental death, 1 mystery solved. But there were still 3 missing family members. We continued following the trail the family had left. About 2 miles further, the tracks changed. The adult woman and 2 children had been walking normally until this point. Then suddenly, the tracks showed they were running. All 3 sets of footprints running in the same direction, away from something. Sarah pointed out scuff marks that suggested they were moving at maximum speed. The woman had stumbled several times but kept going. The children's strides were stretched to their limit. They were terrified, running for their lives. The tracks led to another slot canyon, this one wider than the one from my first experience, about 12 feet across. They ran straight into it. Sarah stopped at the entrance. She knelt, examining the ground. Then she looked up at me. They ran in. Nothing ran in after them, no other tracks. So whatever they were running from, I began, wasn't on the ground, she finished. Deschert pushed past us. They probably heard a rattlesnake or thought they saw a mountain lion. People from Chicago wouldn't know how to react properly. We entered the slot canyon cautiously. I felt the same drop in temperature I'd experienced 3 years earlier, the same unnatural dampness, the same pressing silence. I wanted to turn back immediately, but I couldn't abandon my team. We found the mother's hiking hat about 50 yards in, then her water bottle, then her trail map. Each item was placed precisely in the center of the path, as if carefully arranged, just like the student's clothing from before. Desher didn't seem to notice anything unusual about this. He documented each item's location and bagged them as evidence. The slot canyon continued to narrow and darken. The walls were wet again, water seeping from solid rock. I tried to point this out to Desher, but he dismissed it as natural seepage. The children's items appeared next. The boy's baseball cap, the girl's pink water bottle, her small backpack with a unicorn pattern, all arranged in a straight line down the center of the canyon floor. No sign of struggle, no blood, no bodies. The humming started. The same electrical vibration I'd felt before, resonating through the rock, through our bodies. Sarah felt it too. I could see it in her face. Aaron unslung his rifle, a Remington 700, and scanned the canyon walls. Dr. Chi looked confused, turning slowly, trying to locate the source of the sound. Desher was oblivious. He continued documenting and collecting the children's belongings, speaking into his handheld recorder about possible explanations for the abandoned items. The darkness above us deepened, not gradually, suddenly, as if someone had turned off the sun. I looked up and saw the same wrongness I'd seen before. The strip of sky wasn't just dark, it was gone, replaced by something that hurt my eyes to look at directly. "We need to leave," I said, keeping my voice calm but firm. "Now, all of us." "We haven't completed the search pattern," Desher objected. Sarah was already backing away toward the entrance. Aaron had his rifle aimed upward, though what good he thought it would do, I don't know. Dr. Chi stood frozen, staring at the canyon walls where the water flow had increased. It wasn't seeping anymore, it was running in steady streams, pooling on the ground before disappearing into the earth. The humming grew louder. I could feel my teeth vibrating, my vision blurred. That's when I saw it descending, the same impossibly thin, impossibly tall figure. In the darkness, I could make out more details this time. It didn't have a face, just a smooth, reflective surface where a face should be. Its limbs were wrong, too many joints bending in impossible directions. Its proportions were obscene, arms that reached to the ground from a height of at least 9 feet. Legs jointed like a spider's, and all of it the deep blue-gray of weathered canyon stone. Aaron fired. The shot was deafening in the confined space. The bullet hit the thing square in what would be its chest on a human. There was no blood, no reaction. The bullet passed through as if the entity were made of mist. It continued its descent. "Run!" I shouted. "Everyone out now!" Sarah and I were already moving toward the entrance. Dr. Chi snapped out of his trance and followed. I heard Desher make a strange choking sound. I didn't look back. The 4 of us ran. The walls of the canyon seemed to be closing in, the passage narrowing with each step. The humming was unbearable now, so loud I could barely think. My ears felt like they would rupture. We made it out. All 4 of us emerged from the slot canyon into the blinding sunlight. We didn't stop running until we were 100 yards away. Then Aaron turned, raising his rifle again. The entrance to the slot canyon was empty, no pursuit, just that heavy silence. "Where's Desher?" Dr. Chi asked, panting. No one answered. We all knew. "We need to go back," Dr. Chi insisted. "He could be injured." "He's gone," Sarah said flatly, "like the others." We reported Desher missing. Another massive search was mobilized. They found nothing. No body, no blood, no sign of what had taken him. The 3 missing Ellis family members were never found either. The official report listed them as victims of exposure and dehydration, their bodies likely washed away by seasonal water flows. Gordon Ellis's death was attributed to an accidental fall. I knew better. My team knew better, but we stopped trying to explain what we'd seen. No one believed us. They documented our statements, filed them away, and constructed explanations that fit their understanding of the world. The 3rd and final recovery operation was in January 2025. 2 geology graduate students from Arizona State University had gone missing while collecting samples near Marble Canyon. Their research supervisor reported them overdue after they missed 3 scheduled check-ins. Park rangers found their equipment scattered along the eastern rim: rock hammers, sample bags, notebooks. The notes described an unusual rock formation they'd discovered in a previously unmapped side canyon. I didn't want to go. I tried to get out of it, claiming illness, but we were short-staffed, and I was the most experienced officer available. My team this time was entirely new. The others who'd seen what I'd seen had all left the service or requested reassignment away from the canyon. The Park Service didn't send anyone. They were conducting a parallel search in a different area. My new team consisted of Leroy Begay, 28, recent transfer from Window Rock, no relation to Daniel Begay; Emma Tsinigini, 34, former Border Patrol agent, excellent shot and even better navigator; and Michael Clark, 45, 20-year veteran who'd spent most of his career on the western side of the reservation. I tried to warn them before we set out. I tried to explain what we might encounter. They listened politely, but clearly didn't believe me. Leroy even smiled slightly, as if humoring a superstitious old-timer. They were modern police officers with modern training and modern equipment. They didn't believe in ancient entities that ate people. We followed the students' trail to the canyon rim, then down a steep, barely visible path that wound into the depths. The two students, Kyle Morrison and Alicia Chang, both 24, had been meticulous in their documentation. Their notebooks detailed every formation they'd examined, every sample they'd collected. The final entry, written in Chang's neat handwriting, described a peculiar blue-gray rock formation. I knew then what they'd found, or what had found them. As we descended deeper into the canyon, the familiar signs began to appear. The unnatural silence, the absence of wildlife. I tried again to warn my team. This time they were less dismissive. They'd noticed the silence too. We found the first item about 2 hours into our descent, a blue bandana. It was folded into a perfect square, as if left for us. Emma bagged it as evidence. I wanted to leave it where it was. I knew what the items meant now. They weren't clues. They were bait. The trail narrowed, the canyon walls pressed in, the temperature dropped, and the walls began to glisten with moisture. We found Chang's notebook next. The last entry was incomplete, ending mid-sentence. The resonance frequency is increasing. Michael picked it up. As he did, we heard it. The humming. Low at first, more felt than heard. A vibration that started in our feet and worked its way up into our chests. Emma believed me now. "We need to go back," I said, "right now." Leroy hesitated. "We haven't found them yet. They could be injured, waiting for rescue." "They're gone," I said, "and we will be too if we don't leave immediately." The humming grew louder. The moisture on the walls increased, running down in sheets now. The sky above us darkened, not with clouds, with that same wrongness, that same absence I'd seen twice before. Emma started back up the trail without waiting for orders. Michael followed her. Leroy stood his ground. "I don't leave people behind," he said. "It's not leaving them behind," I told him. "They're already gone. There's nothing left to find." He shook his head and took a step deeper into the canyon. I grabbed his arm. "Don't." The humming was painful now, vibrating through my skull. I could see it affecting Leroy too. He winced, reaching up to cover his ears. Too late, I realized we'd waited too long. The narrow path we'd descended on was changing. The walls were closing in. The route back to the rim was disappearing. It came from above, just like before, descending from that impossible darkness. But this time I saw it clearly, 9 feet tall at least, limbs too numerous and too long. That smooth, reflective surface where a face should be, and its color, that blue-gray of ancient stone, but wet, glistening, moving like something molten. Leroy saw it too. He raised his sidearm, a Glock 22, department issue, and fired 1, 2, 3 shots. The bullets passed through the entity without effect. It continued its descent, fluid and deliberate. "Run!" I shouted, pulling Leroy backward. He resisted for a moment, then turned and ran with me. Emma and Michael were already 20 yards ahead, climbing fast. The path was steeper now, the footing uncertain, the walls were wet, offering no handholds. I heard Leroy make a sound behind me. A short, sharp exhalation, like someone punched in the stomach. I looked back. He was gone, not fallen. Gone. One moment running behind me, the next simply not there anymore. The entity was closer now, moving up the path with that fluid, weightless motion. Its limbs didn't touch the ground as it moved. It flowed like water running uphill. I ran harder than I've ever run in my life. My lungs burned, my legs screamed. I caught up to Emma and Michael and we climbed together, clawing our way up the increasingly vertical path. The humming was deafening now. I could taste blood in my mouth. My vision narrowed to a tunnel. Just up, keep going up. Michael fell, not from the path. His legs simply gave out. He collapsed to his knees, then to all fours, then flat. Emma and I each grabbed an arm, trying to drag him with us. He was convulsing, blood pouring from his nose and ears. The humming had done something to him internally. Something had ruptured. He died in our arms, one moment struggling, the next still. Emma and I had no choice. We left his body and kept climbing. The entity was right behind us now. I could feel its coldness on my back, like standing in front of an open freezer. Emma was ahead of me when she stopped suddenly. The path in front of her had vanished. Where there should have been a continuation upward, there was only smooth, wet rock, unclimbable. She turned to me, her eyes wide with the realization that we were trapped. I looked back down the path. The entity had stopped its pursuit. It hung in the air about 20 feet below us. That featureless reflective surface turned up toward us, watching, waiting. It knew we had nowhere to go. The humming changed pitch, lower, almost subsonic. I felt my organs vibrating inside my body. Blood began to trickle from my nose, my ears. Emma was experiencing the same thing. Her face was a mask of blood. She screamed, but I couldn't hear her over the humming. What happened next, I still can't explain. The rock face behind Emma split open, not cracked, split like flesh parting. Inside was darkness, not the darkness of a cave or crevice, something deeper. Emma was pulled backward into that opening, not by physical limbs or tentacles, by nothing visible at all. One moment she was there, the next she was gone. The rock face sealed itself closed, as if it had never opened. I was alone. The entity remained below me, watching. The humming continued to tear me apart from the inside. I collapsed to my knees, then to my side. Blood poured from every orifice, nose, ears, mouth, eyes. My vision blurred, then darkened. I was dying and I knew it. Then suddenly silence. The humming stopped. The entity retreated, flowing back down the path like water finding its level. The darkness above lightened, revealing normal sky again. The path that had vanished reappeared. I lay there, bleeding, barely conscious, not understanding why I'd been spared. A tribal elder later told me that the Tsenina Dutwij Yinifahi sometimes leaves a witness. One person to carry the warning back, one person to tell others to stay away. It's been doing this for thousands of years. The warning is never heeded. I was found 18 hours later by a Park Service helicopter. I'd managed to climb about halfway back to the rim before collapsing again. I was suffering from massive internal hemorrhaging, traumatic brain injury from the acoustic assault, and severe dehydration. I spent 6 weeks in the hospital. The doctors couldn't explain what had caused my injuries. They'd never seen internal damage like mine without external trauma. Leroy, Michael, and Emma were listed as missing, presumed dead from falls or exposure. The 2 geology students were never found. The official report concluded that a section of unstable canyon wall had collapsed, killing all 5 of them and burying their bodies under tons of rock. No recovery attempt was made due to the continuing instability of the area. I tried to tell them what I'd seen, what we'd all seen. No one believed me. They attributed my account to traumatic brain injury and PTSD. I was medically retired from the tribal police and strongly encouraged to seek psychiatric help. I moved to Albuquerque to be near the VA hospital where I receive ongoing treatment for my injuries. I still suffer from seizures, migraines, and intermittent internal bleeding. The doctors can't explain why my injuries won't fully heal. I think I know why. Before I left the reservation, I visited Daniel Begay. He wasn't surprised to see me. He wasn't surprised that I'd survived either. He'd been expecting it. "It marked you," he said. "That's why you lived." "Marked me how?" I asked. "It's in your blood now, a piece of it. You'll carry it until you die. And after you're gone, it will still be here. It's been here since before the canyon formed. It will be here long after the canyon is gone." "What is it?" I asked. Daniel shook his head. "Not what, who. It was one of the first beings, from when the world was still soft, before things had decided what shape to take. It chose stone and water and darkness and hunger. Why does it take people? Same reason we eat, to continue, but also to remind us that we don't belong there, that some places were never meant for us. The Park Service has restricted access to the eastern section of the canyon where most of the disappearances occurred. They cite unstable geological conditions. Signs warn hikers not to leave established trails. The warnings aren't specific enough. People still disappear. 3 more hikers vanished last summer, 2 rock climbers in the fall, a photographer just last month. The pattern is always the same. Items found arranged in deliberate patterns. No bodies recovered. Official explanations that satisfy bureaucratic requirements but explain nothing. I don't go near canyons anymore. I don't hike. I don't camp. I stay in my apartment in the city, surrounded by concrete and glass and steel. But sometimes in the middle of the night, I hear it. That humming, vibrating through the walls, through my bed, through my body. It found me once. It marked me. Part of it is inside me. And sometimes, when I turn on the bathroom faucet in the dark, I swear the water runs blue-gray for just a moment before clearing. And in that moment, I see a reflection in the water that isn't my face, but that same smooth, featureless surface, watching, waiting, reminding me that some places in this world belong to things much older than humanity, things that were here long before us and will remain long after we're gone, things that see us not as intruders or enemies, but simply as sustenance. If you're planning a hike in the Grand Canyon, stick to the main trails, stay with your group. And if you find yourself alone in a narrow passage and the world goes silent around you and you feel that humming start deep in your bones, run. Don't look back. Don't try to understand. Just run. You probably won't make it out, but you need to try because it's hungry and it's patient and it's been there all along.